UFC 325 takes place this weekend, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight in the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. First off, let's go over how I did last week at UFC 324, and for picks, we went 7-4. We had Paddy Pimblett in the main event. I fell for the sheep trap, the biggest sheep trap I've seen in quite a while. Everyone was on Paddy Pimblett for seemingly no reason. I myself took Michael Chandler against Paddy. I took Tony Ferguson against Paddy. I took King Green against Paddy. But after that Chandler performance, I thought there was enough wrinkles added to Paddy's game where he could beat a guy like Gaethje. Turns out, I was completely incorrect. That's the fight game for you. I also had Arnold Allen against Gene Silva. I thought the price tag on Allen was a little bit rough. I thought it was a good underdog shot. He put up an interesting performance, got surfboarded, so I don't know. Don't hate that pick either. Modestas Bukauskas by decision. The decision, that was a good take, but Modestas winning was a terrible take. Nikita Krylov was completely locked in, dialed, diced. Modestas didn't have Aspinall in his camp because of the eye injury, so those things seem to have a big effect on the fight outcome. We also had Charles Johnson. He goes out there and fumbles the bag horrifically against Alex Perez. It turns out if Charles Johnson is not fighting an unranked prospect, you probably should not be picking or putting your money on the guy. So, and then as for the bet MMA, as for our bets, we were negative 1.69 units, all right? Everything basically came down to Paddy Pimblett. If you look here closely, you know, the Paddy parlays just added up. We needed him with Sean O'Malley. That did not hit. We needed him with Natalia Silva. That did not hit. And then we also had a Savage three-legger going where we needed Paddy by finish. So we basically just needed a Paddy finish. We would have cashed for piles. We would have been super mega profitable. Turns out he has no takedowns. Can't bring the fight to the mat. Can't win the fight. So don't hate the picks. Don't hate the bets. But let's see for UFC 325 if we can actually spin a profit this week. At UFC 325, there's actually going to be a lot of road to the UFC fights. The card is going to start out with 4 Australians fighting 4 Asians. So here's my breakdown quickly for each of them. The first one is Namzrai Bayar taking on Aaron Tao, and in this one, I think Aaron Tao, he is a decision merchant. I don't really see much finishing upside for a guy like Aaron Tao. Meanwhile, Namzrai, he goes for takedowns, which is Aaron Tao's biggest weakness. He has power in his hands. He got 2 knockdowns in his 2 road to the UFC fights. So I think Namzrai is just a more interesting prospect moving forward. I also just dislike Aaron Tao's face makeup. That might be playing a factor into this pick. I'm going with Namzrai Bayar by decision in this first one. The next road to the UFC fight is Sulang Grangbo taking on Lawrence Louis. Everyone says his name is Rangbo, so I'm going to refer to him as Rangbo. Now, Sulang Grangbo is a very young prospect. He has big power in his hands. He's very exciting on the feet. Lawrence Louis, he kind of has that tall man defense where if he gets cracked badly, I think he's going to go to sleep. He already got cracked before on this tournament alone, so I'm going with Rangbo by round 2 KO in this one. Next road to the UFC fight is Sebastian Szalai taking on Kiichiro Nakamura, and in this one, I think it's pretty simple. Sebastian Szalai is a decision points fighting merchant. Kiichiro Nakamura is more of a potent, high-power finisher. So in terms of the UFC, who do I want to see succeed more? I would rather see Nakamura win this fight, and if he were to win, it would be by finish. I think Sebastian's skill set is pretty good. He is coming off of a KO after all. He's not just a decision guy. He did just get a KO on road to the UFC. However, just based on who I think is more entertaining, more exciting, I am once again siding with the Asian here. I'm going with Kiichiro Nakamura by round 2 knockout. The last road to the UFC fight is Darman Fan taking on Sang-Uk Kim the Frogman, and this is very simple. This is going to be a grappling match for 15 minutes. Basically, what do you think is better? Australian grappling and Darman Fan, or South Korean grappling and Sang Woo Kim. I will say we have seen Donmar Fan out-grappled before by Kwolan Salkield. His 2 losses are literally submission losses to Kwolan Salkield. So if Kwolan Salkield can do it, can Sang Woo Kim replicate that success? I just don't think so. I'm going with Donmar Fan by decision, my first non-Asian pick. As you can see, I'm basically picking all the favorites. I'm pretty sure Kiyochiro has switched to an underdog now, so give me credit for that underdog pick there. But, yeah, it should be an interesting way to start the card. Now let's get into my foregone conclusions. These are fights that I think will either end in round 1 because the favorite's going to smack them, or fights where I think the favorite just wins no matter what, and there's nothing I could have researched or broken down further to come up with a different answer. So let's get into it. The first foregone conclusion is Cam Roston taking on Cody Brundage. In this one, Cam Roston, back-to-back vicious knockouts in the first round. On the feet, Cam Roston is way taller, way longer. Cam Roston should finish Cody Brundage in round 1, whether it be a KO or whether it be a sub, because Cody Brundage is shooting a lazy takedown. So give me Cam Roston by finish in this one. The next foregone conclusion is obviously Kwolan Salkield taking on Jamie Malarkey. And in this one, Kwolan Salkield basically can win by any method. I would not be shocked to see him knock out Malarkey in round 1 like he just did against Nasrat. I would not be shocked to see him take down Malarkey and submit him. He does have a pretty good submission base to go with his striking. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Kwolan Salkield won a decision here. So this is one of those situations where every path is available for Kwolan. That's probably why he's minus 800 compared to like a minus 300, is because he can win by every single method. So I'm going with Kwolan Salkield by round 1 knockout here. Next foregone conclusion is Junior Tafa taking on Billy Alakana. Now, there's no scenario where I will be taking Junior Tafa, 6-4, coming off a submission loss to Tuco Tacos. Of all people, Tuco Tacos got a sub on you. I know Tuco Tacos trained with, Brendan Allen, but that is still very embarrassing to just get submitted by Tuco Tacos. Junior Tafa's ground game is basically non-existent, and you got a guy in Billy Alakana who we've seen. The only way that he's going to look like a minus 230 favorite is if he goes for takedowns and finds a submission, which I think there's nothing telling me that he won't do that. So I'm going with Billy Alakana to find a round 1 submission similar to how Tuco Tacos did it. Listen, I think Billy Alakana on the feet is similar to Tuco, and I think his submission skill set is better than Tuco's. So he should do the same thing, if not better, if not crisper, then Tuco, which is submit Junior Tafa in round 1. Last foregone conclusion, and it does feel bad saying this, but Dan Hooker taking on Benoit Saint Denis. I think this is a foregone conclusion. I mean, after the Armin Sarukian performance that Dan Hooker had, he looked like a complete fish on the ground. He looked like a bag of sand. He doesn't really have that oomph anymore that he had against a guy like Matthias Gamrot. It seems like if you hit this guy hard, he's going to crumble. If you take this guy down relentlessly, he's going to tap out. So Benoit Saint Denis, that's all he does. He tries to bop you on the feet, and he goes for relentless takedowns. I got Benoit Saint Denis by round 1 sub. I am very confident that all 4 of these guys win. Cam Roston, I think, definitely wins. Kwolan Salkield definitely wins. Billy Alakana might be the only one where I'm like, it is low-level, light heavyweight, so, Junior Tafa can land one bonk, potentially, but I still think Alakana wins. And then Benoit Saint Denis, I don't think Dan Hooker's getting a guillotine on him. If Dustin Poirier couldn't do it, I don't think Dan Hooker's getting that ghillie. So, yeah, I think these guys are, I don't want to say the L word, but pretty high confident takes here. And we have the sheep pick of the week. Last week, the sheep pick of the week was Charles Johnson, and I made a pretty good case why he was the sheep pick. I did pick Charles Johnson, but I did warn everyone that it was a sheep pick. Now, for a sheep pick, I look at a couple different factors here. Number 1, Tapology. If they are an underdog betting-wise and Tapology is picking them at a majority rate, that usually tells me that all the sheep are on the underdog. Number 2, the betting line itself. If the betting line is going wishy-washy in the underdog's favor, that is another sign of a sheep pick, considering the market only moves like this if people that are sheep are betting, in my opinion. That's just what I see with my eyes. You can say I'm wrong. That's fine. I'm just going with what I observe. Another reason a sheep pick might be a sheep pick is because of recency bias. Another reason a sheep pick might be a sheep pick is because of the overall feel of the fight. You know what I mean? Like, you just get a feeling like, I should be picking this person, but for not good reasons. Last week, I should be picking Charles Johnson. He should be beating Alex Perez, but there wasn't good reasoning behind it. Alex Perez, it turns out, is the better fighter. In this matchup here I have in front of you, that is the exact reasoning I have. The sheep pick of the week is going to be Torrez Finney going against Jacob Malkoun. We have a battle of two grapplers, so it kind of seems like the UFC is setting Torrez Finney up for a W, but let me explain why I think Torrez Finney is a sheep pick. Not Malkoun. Usually the favorite is the sheep, but this week it's the underdog. Well, here it is. Finney only wrestles. There's no striking to his game. This guy is as one-dimensional as it gets. If the takedowns don't work, he's going to look like a fish on the feet. Not saying Malkoun has, this world-class striking, but if Finney doesn't get the takedowns going, he's going to look very, very dumb on the feet. Also, Malkoun only has a 20% takedown defense, but the only guy that he fought that tried to take him down, which was Brendan Allen, he actually out-grappled and out-maneuvered and controlled longer than Brendan Allen controlled him. So what do we expect Finney to do, who has a way less submission game than a guy like Brendan Allen? Also, Finney doesn't really have a ground-and-pound threat, doesn't really have a submission threat. Malkoun has fought the better brand of competition. Finney has yet to fight a wrestler that's going to actually shoot for takedowns on him. We don't know how he's going to look. And then also, because Malkoun can shoot the takedowns himself, that might lead Finney to actually strike more than we think. So if Finney's striking more than we think, there's a chance Malkoun just styles on him on the feet. So I'm going with Jacob Malkoun here by decision. I think he can offensively wrestle Finney. I think if it's standing, he's the better striker than Finney. And I think if Finney goes for takedowns, they might work. But eventually, Malkoun's going to turn the table and be the better wrestler. So yeah, give me Malkoun here, fading the sheep pick this week. Now for a more traditional style of breakdown, we got Kaan Ofli taking on Yizha. This is basically a grappler in Kaan Ofli versus a grappler in Yizha. The only difference is Yizha is coming off of a round 1 KO against Weston Wilson, so now everyone thinks that Yizha is this world-class power puncher on top of his grappling. However, I don't know if that's truly the case. In this matchup specifically, I am leaning Yizha to win by decision, but that's because I think he's a better striker than Kaan Ofli. I don't think Kaan Ofli is really that good on the feet whatsoever. I don't really think you need much striking to beat a guy like Kaan Ofli. Kaan Ofli's only UFC win is Ricardo Ramos, and I think Yizha is better than Ricardo Ramos. I think Yizha actually has a brain compared to Ricardo Ramos. I think he actually has some fight IQ. Unlike Ricardo Ramos, I don't think Kaan Ofli can just climb on Yizha's back and secure the sub. So I think Yizha just keeps us on the feet for 3 rounds. He can activate his own takedowns. This matchup reminds me a lot of Naimov versus Kaan Ofli. And what happened in that matchup? It was striking for 3 rounds, and Naimov was getting takedowns when he wanted. I think that's what's going to happen here. It's going to be striking for 3 rounds, and Yizha's going to get the takedowns when he wants. I wouldn't be surprised if Kaan Ofli, sneaks a rabbit out the hat and maybe wins 2 scorecards for the judges due to his grappling. But I think Kaan Ofli needs to finish to win. I don't think he's going to find it, so Yizha by decision. Next fight we got is Jonathan Micallef taking on Oban Elliott. This fight is an extreme case of recency bias for both fighters. We got Jonathan Micallef, who the recency bias is he has a crazy submission game because of Contender Series, and he has crazy striking based on his performance against Kevin Jusay. Oban Elliott, the recency bias is this guy sucks. He goes out there against Sung-Woo Kim and just gets mollywopped for 3 rounds, taken down relentlessly. No hope whatsoever for Oban Elliott in that fight. Now, in this one, it kind of looks good for Oban Elliott, considering this is going to be a striking match for the most part for 3 rounds. Micallef, we've yet to see actually shoot his own offensive takedowns. So if this stays standing, Oban Elliott will probably be the more accurate technical striker. but Jonathan Micallef will probably be the striker that's throwing with more power. This was what happened in Micallef's last fight against Kevin Jousset. Kevin Jousset was the more accurate technical striker, but Micallef just overpowered him with high head kicks over and over and over again, winning rounds with simply one tool, which was a head kick. Now, against Oban Elliott, will that work? I actually think, yes, it will. I think Oban Elliott has shown signs of chin concerns. He has been wobbled, he has been rocked, he has been dropped, especially by Val Woodburn of all people. So if Val Woodburn is dropping you on the feet, I think Jonathan Micallef can drop you on the feet with a high kick as well. Also, if this were to hit the ground, I think Micallef has some sneaky submission skills. I think he can reverse positions on Oban if Oban decides to go all in on takedowns. If Oban wants to clinch against the cage, I think Micallef actually is the stronger fighter in that scenario. So the only way I see Oban winning is if he just fights his way to a decision. Jonathan Micallef, I think there's just more ways to win. He can knock out Oban, he can submit Oban if it gets to the mat, and he can also win by a power-based decision. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Jonathan Micallef, actually by knockout. I think Oban Elliott would win the decision if it gets to the scorecard. The finish lies with Jonathan Micallef. I think he's going to spam the high kick like he did against Kevin Jousset, wobble Oban, and then ultimately finish him in round number 2. Next fight we got is Tuivasa taking on Teixeira. I do have a breakdown here, but listen, this fight is going to be a banger from start to finish, however long that lasts. Fight to end in 60 seconds, that might be a prop you might want to put money on. Fight to end in round 1, that might be a prop you want to put money on. Talisson Teixeira and the under 1.5, that might be a prop you want to put money on. However, Talisson Teixeira is just completely unproven. All right, he only has a Contender Series win. Then he jumped him straight to Derek Lewis, and he got slept in the first round. Yes, it was an early stoppage, but you can't grab the cage to get back to your feet. You just can't do that, so I kind of understand it. Tuivasa, however, 5-fight losing streak, hasn't fought in 17 months, and the travel just to get back into the cage is a big one. It's not like he was training to fight. He was more training to lose weight. This guy was overweight by a lot. He's finally lost the weight to actually make weight for heavyweight, which is crazy, 265. I can see Tuivasa winning, don't get me wrong, but for picking purposes, I'm going with Talisson Teixeira by round 1 knockout. I just think he has more tools. He's way bigger, way taller, way longer. He's got that clinch game. He's got the elbow game, got the knee game. Tuivasa just needs to land a big bam on Talisson to win. Yes, he can definitely land that. Talisson's tall, and, you know, Tuivasa, boom, you can Stefan Struve him and just knock him out like that. But for a pick purpose, I have to go with Talisson. For a bet, you know, might sprinkle round 1 finish of some sort, but meh. That's enough talking about this fight. Next fight we got is Rafael Fiziev taking on Mauricio Ruffy. This fight is very confusing. The betting line is even more confusing. All right, so Rafael Fiziev opens as a pick'em against Mauricio Ruffy, -110 each way. Then Fiziev is -190 instantly. People slam Fiziev. They think Fiziev has some type of advantage to win. As the week progresses, money comes in on Ruffy a little bit. Then yesterday, boom, a big bomb drops. Ruffy is now a -130 favorite. He went from +170 to -130. Why might that be? What is the reasoning for the line movement? Well, I think I get it. So when you first look at this fight, you think it's two strikers that offset each other in the striking. So basically, who is the better wrestler grappler? Well, Fiziev is the one that is shooting the takedowns. Therefore, he is, in theory, the better wrestler and the better grappler. However, what I will say is Fiziev isn't really a submission threat. He will get the takedown, but he's not chasing the back. He's not chasing a sub. He's more just holding you down, pot-shotting you on the ground, and then allowing you to get up. Now, Mauricio Ruffy against Benoit Saint-Denis, people will look at that and say, oh, why can't Fiziev do that? Why can't Fiziev just take down Ruffy and submit him? Well, Fiziev, number one, his BJJ is nowhere close to BSD. Number two, Fiziev, once he gets to the ground, we have yet to see him actually progress to the next spot. Like, he's in full guard. He doesn't really get the half guard. He's in full guard. He kind of camps there, and the guy gets up. He doesn't really progress to the back, to side. There's not a lot of ground progression. So with that being said, let's just say that the ground game is canceled out. All right, so now we go back to the striking. We thought that it was 50-50. But what if I told you Ruffy? 3-inch height advantage, 4-inch reach advantage, and honestly, he throws with more power than Fiziev. When's Fiziev's last UFC finish? Was it Brad Riddell with the spinning back kick? Was that really his last finish all those years ago? Fiziev is a great striker, don't get me wrong. Very technical, but the power is just, I don't think it's there. Mauricio Ruffy, however, the power is there, and he's technical, and he's accurate, and Ruffy has been training with Volk for this fight. So all those reasons, the entire breakdown, take it all, put it into a big breakdown soup. I'm going with Mauricio Ruffy by decision. I think he's going to land big shots on Fiziev from the jump. Would not be shocked to see a Ruffy knockout. I do think it gets to the scorecards. I do think Ruffy at that point will have landed more damage. Give me Ruffy by decision. And the main event, Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopes. Surely you can just go off of their first fight and just say, oh yeah, Alexander Volkanovski, easy sweep on the scorecards. He's going to win 50-45 this time. He's going to make it look even cleaner. But what if I told you over a year has passed since that fight? Alexander Volkanovski is not getting younger. He's actually getting older. Contrary to popular belief, his chin is only getting weaker. He got knocked down twice by Lopes in that fight. I think Lopes was just dealing with a lot of nerves. A year has passed for Lopes. He has since defeated and finished Gene Silva. I think he's coming in here with the renowned confidence to try to actually finish Volk this time. I think he knows what he needs to do. He's got to follow Volk to the mat. He's got to get it to the mat somehow and get into mount on Volk and start landing vicious elbows. Even land some spinning back elbows, some spinning back fists. You know, go deep into your bag, Diego. There's no way that Diego can win a volume-based decision. That's just not going to happen. Volk is the king of volume. He's going to triple up Diego on strikes here. Diego can only win if he gets takedowns, which he didn't really get in the first fight, or if he lands big shots on Volk, which he did do in the first fight, but the follow-ups weren't that good. So I think in this one, renowned confidence for Diego. Volk, it seems, fighting is on the back burner for him. It's kind of like a secondary job at this point. He's like, all right, time to suit up for work. Meanwhile, he's been cooking with Volk. He's been tending to his farm and his sheep. I just don't think fighting is top of the queue for Volk. Meanwhile, Diego Lopes, all he does is fight. All he does is bring high-octane, high-energy performances every time we see him in the octagon. So, rematches don't always go as they did in the first fight. I have literally 0 underdogs picked, unless you're counting Kiyoshiro Nakamura. So, the only underdog I like on this card besides him is Diego Lopes by knockout. I think he actually lands the big shot like he did in the first fight, but this time he follows Volk to the mat and finishes him off. No offense to Volk. I love Volk. I think Volk's a great fighter. I think he's one of the, number 1, featherweight GOATs, number 2, GOATs overall. But Diego Lopes, I think he's paid his dues. I think he deserves to be here. And I think he's got the skill set on the feet to beat a guy like Volk. You know, last year I did pick Volk to win, and he was an underdog. That was a nice pick by me. But this time, rematch, I'm taking Diego. And my most confident takes of the card, if you've been paying attention, these have been slapping at an extraordinarily high clip. Last week, I gave you 6 confident takes, and 5 of them hit, with the last one, Patty by finish. Obviously, that did not hit. But what do we have this week? Let's see. Cam Roaston by finish. I can see him getting the knockout on Brundage, and I can see him latching in some type of front choke on Brundage. So I wouldn't take his KO or sub. I would take his money line overall, but if you want to get a little juicier, you go with the finish prop. We also got Billy Alacana by sub. Fairly simple, all right? I think he's going to take down Junior Tafa and submit him. Listen, if Tuco Tacos did it, and Billy Alacana, I think, is a better grappler than him, it should happen. Quillan Selkeeld money line. Now, this might be a cop-out because Quillan's minus 800, and I'm saying money line, not like KO or sub or finish. This fight just has a lot of weird things around it. Jamie Malarkey should just not be signed to the UFC, and Quillan should be fighting someone higher ranked. This is just a weird matchup. Quillan should find the finish, whether it be on the feet or on the ground, but wouldn't be shocked if he just pulled a Ruffy against James Yontop and just cruise his way to a decision. It's a very free win for Quillan. We'll see how he does it. Benoit Saint Denis by sub. I slammed Arman Sarukian by sub against Dan Hooker, and I think that was Arman Sarukian's first or second career submission win. With that in mind, I still slammed Arman by sub. Why? Well, if you can get Dan Hooker to the mat, his submission defense is really not that good. Number two, if you can bonk Dan Hooker on the feet, he suddenly opens himself up to get submitted on the ground as well. That's basically what happened against Arman. Arman was smacking him on the ground. He kind of gave up, just was like, and then Arman just latched in the sub. I think the same thing happens here. I think Benoit just wrestles Hooker to the ground and submits him. I mean, he did it to Ruffy. I don't see why he can't do it to Dan Hooker. And my sneaky takes. These are basically the only underdogs I have picked on the entire card. And we got Kichiro Nakamura, money line. Not confident whatsoever. He's a finisher going against a decision merchant. I'm just leaning with the finisher to win. That's the whole breakdown there. And then, of course, someone that might be the Finn's hammer lock. Diego Lopes on the money line. These will probably be my only wagers on underdogs this week. Rematches don't always go as they did in the first one. That's basically the entire breakdown there. I think Diego Lopes, a lot of time has passed. I think his time has come. If he were to win the title, it would be in this exact fight. So, thanks for watching. Leave a like. Let me know in the comments your picks for the card. Just drop them. Screw it. Subscribe. Have a great day, you savage.